Well, welcome to Pass the Mic. I am your December host, Patty Schutte, presentation strategist and speaker coach, and really someone who believes that brilliant presentation skills are not a soft skill. They are a true company and brand strategy and advantage. And when it comes to brand advantage, my guest here that I have with me today, who I'm super excited to be joining me, knows all about company and brand strategy. It is Charlie Ungeswish. Charlie is the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer at Vimeo. But Charlie, you've been doing the CMO at high tech startups and growth companies for 20 years, I believe.
Yes, you're dating me. Hey, Patty.
Well, that's okay. I'll date myself. What? WorkHuman, Applause, PTC, to name a few.
Yeah, and now Vimeo. I've been very lucky to be part of some great brands, and of course some great marketing and sales teams. So yeah, I'm super excited to be here today. Quality presentations is all about human interaction, and I think it's really, really important to any marketing strategy.
Yeah, and Carl, I was thinking about this, Charlie, is we met. Gosh, I think it's almost been a decade ago, maybe even a little bit longer. And I don't know if you remember the story or not, but we were at a hotel and there was a select few people that could jump into the Escalades that was like a long caravan, like Secret Service, where everybody else had to get in the Greyhound buses to go to the conference. And if there was a Escalade open, you were just lucky and you jumped in. So you and I both raced in, jumped in, sat down, shut the door at the same time, and looked over at each other. And I don't know about you, but I thought, oh, I've been working with this company. I don't know this exec. How come I haven't worked with them? And then I'm freaking out thinking, why haven't I coached an executive? And then you probably thought, I don't know who this person is. I haven't met her yet. And then we realized you were literally brand new. I think you'd only worked for that company for about a week. That's why I hadn't worked with you. And then you realized, oh, wait a second. You're not even an employee. You're the presentation strategist that I've been hearing about. And we had a great conversation. And one of the questions I'll never forget, or I've never forgotten that you asked me, Charlie, and I don't even know if you remember this, but you said, Patty, I'm curious, how do you market services like yours? And I remember looking over and I said, I'm pretty blessed. I really don't have to do too much because so much of what I do is retention and repeat business. And I kind of remember the look on your face going, huh, well, that's interesting. And if you fast forward now, Charlie, 10 years, you are a perfect example of what I mean by people keep coming back because we've now worked together across three different companies, multiple big events, small events, and anywhere in between. And I'm curious, looking back at that, what has made you keep reaching out and saying, gosh, I need assistance and presentation strategy help when it comes to my events?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I don't remember that story, but that's really funny. But I think it was in Nashville, Tennessee.
It
Uh,
was. Yeah.
Listen, I'm really lucky insofar as I get to work with the people that I want to work with for the most part. At my point in my career, not everybody can. I certainly wasn't the case earlier in my career. And it's just so nice when you work with the teams, the vendors, the agencies that just they know you, they know your bar for quality, they know what you're trying to accomplish. And so you're not sweating the details, if you can have it. Um, what I will say about what you do, not to flatter you, is that what you do is very unique and very specialized. And it's also the case that probably not every, marketer is thinking top of mind. Oh, no, I need to make sure that this presentation comes out really, really well. They're worried about, the metrics or the budget or, the other things that are, not as they're less subjective if I put it that way. Um, so yeah, I like I said, I've been, whether it's web development agencies or presentation coaches or branding houses, like th those are the types of things that as a marketer you need to pull all the elements together in order for something to really come off well. And that's why I love working with you.
Well, thank you. And it's been my experience, Charlie, and I really appreciate all of that. And I love what you said about choosing who you get to work with because as soon as I see it's Charlie reaching out, I'm always going to say yes. Because in my experience, Charlie, not everybody takes presentation quality as seriously as you do, or to see the effects that, or the ripple effects, because it's not just the effects it can have in the moment, but it's the effects that it can have going forward and going on. So maybe I'm making a bad assumption here, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't think everyone that's in a position to either bring a conference like you and I have worked on primarily is you go to an organization and you use conferences as a brand strategy. So if someone was listening to this podcast right now, my question really is twofold. One, why is that a good strategy? Because I run into some people that are like, I've never thought of that as a strategy. Like, why would I do that in my organization? But second, the other thing I run into sometimes is people who are doing that and they are thinking about it. They go, oh, I don't need a speech coach. I don't need somebody just telling them ums and helping them run through their delivery. And then I try to explain, no, it's so much more than that. It's the project management piece, it's the connection piece. So, really, that's a twofold question, Charlie. If you want to kind of attack that, I'd be curious on your thoughts.
So, well, let's talk about the most recent um, project we worked on together at Vimeo. Vimeo is a 20-year-old company. We actually invented the like button 20 years ago. We're the number one destination for ad-free, high-quality video, and yet we'd never had a conference. We never like we have filmmakers, we have learning and development teams, we have Martha Stewart. Like we'd never actually pulled all those people together into a room. By the way, we're also in New York, so it was like so obvious in our 20th anniversary that we would put together a conference. And my CEO at the time, he's like, listen, events are really hard to pull off. Even if you get like, he literally said, get 7 users, 7 video pros in a Starbucks together, just talking and film film that. That'd be fine. And I was like, well, my ambition is a little bit higher than that. We're Vimeo, we're a brand, we're not just 7 video pros. And
In a
so
Starbucks.
in a Starbucks. We did have great coffee though. Um, and so it was obvious to me that this would be a success just because Vimeo is such a beloved brand and a great product. And so it was a no-brainer to do that. We didn't go for we didn't get over our skis in terms of our ambition. We put something together that was very achievable. But the thing with Vimeo and our brand is it's got to be high quality. We are the high quality video company, right? So that means that every pixel has to be perfect when it's projected in the live stream. The presenters obviously have to be great and they have to be credible, but that's just the case in any event, I think. And so, it was great to see us do that 2 years in a row. And the funnest thing for me was getting a marketing team who had never done this before to do it. And I'm sure you've seen that movie before where people are like, "Whoa, wait, what's this?" And we got to do 5 rounds of rehearsals, and we have a speech coach, and like all that new stuff. Where you and I have seen this before.
Right.
So it's always funny to bring that vision to a new team, and I know that new team is going to work with you again in some other new company in some other new capacity. So that's super fun.
Yes. And you're right. They don't, the work it takes to bring presentation quality to life is not what some people have experienced. They don't understand the workflow. They try to approach the workflow. That's one of the things I love to do when I come with new teams, like you're talking about, is when they've never worked with someone like me, is to go, oh, so this is the work back. This is the workflow. Oh, I never thought about the fact that I got to bring the production team, the people who are the graphic designers in at this point in time. Or this is the best way to make sure that I get the CEO and the CMO and the product team all together on the same page. And then on top of that, have you forgotten about legal? Like we got to have legal in
A
on this
hundred percent.
too. And to actually bring all that together. And so when it comes to an enterprise conference, and if someone is in the shoes that you're talking about, and it seems like the right move, they've got beloved clients, customers, what would you say if you were my chief marketing officer and you're like, okay, Patty, you're talking to somebody on the phone and they're not quite so sure. Gosh, I really want to do this enterprise conference. I'm not sure if I can pull it off or not. How would you encourage him to say, yeah, go for it? That this really makes a difference in your brand. And when you go for it, this is why you need Patty or someone like Patty and her services.
You bet. Listen, events are like marketing campaigns. There are 100 things that need to come together flawlessly. They just are. And when things go wrong, the CMO is on the hook for it.
Mm.
They are. And it could be it could be mundane, like the chicken is cold. Like it's amazing what people complain about. Um, and so, I'm a perfectionist, yes, but I also care about doing a great job. And you have to think about all of the things. As part of the things, there's two things that you provide immense value for. One is your executive, your CEO who's on stage. I mean, I could tell the CEO where to walk and da, 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 but like I'm not an expert in that, but I have some opinions. But to put somebody like you in that role where you are the expert at that, it just gives my stakeholders a level of confidence and comfort, and takes one other thing off my plate. I have an expert AV crew, I have an expert graphics designer, and I have an expert presentation coach that everyone trusts, and they all tell me that too. By the way, afterwards, they're like, "Oh my, can we work with Patty again?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Oh, thank you.
The second thing is you have, in to your point about tech conferences, like we don't do these things every day. We have
Mhm.
our day jobs. Our product managers are building great products. Our engineers are doing their thing, and so to put them on stage is it's an unnatural act. It's sort of like, I grew up in the 80s and late 70s. I'm dating myself. And I remember the cast of the TV shows, like the Brady Bunch, they would do these musicals off to the side. It's very weird. And it's kind of like that when you do a tech conference and you got to be on stage, you're live streamed to thousands of people,
Right.
and you've got to say things in an unnatural way for you at times. And so you help pull the best out of people, whether it's the executive or the product manager or engineer who's not used to doing that. And I don't know how you do that without it.
Well, thank you for saying that again. And that is the one thing that I think people don't always think about either. Is I've had people reach out to me and they're like, okay, well, I want speech coach, but I'm only going to give it for these speakers. And what's fascinating to me is then it's almost like they're saying, okay, this part of my conference can have the extra care and the extra support, but this part can't. And I've always been concerned about that from a brand strategy perspective or just an experience perspective. And so you made a comment how I work across all speakers. And I've said I'm going to work with your speakers at your organization, which are your executives, your product, anybody within your internal walls that are going to be speaking at the event. But you also have guests that come in. I mean, that's what really makes, just like you were saying with Vimeo, but that happened with your other conferences that we worked on too, is that your clients, your customers, the way you curated the speakers at that conference that were not internal to that organization, they were your external speakers. They also, completely complementary to them, got the same support. And I find it fascinating when I work with people or they're trying to figure out if they want to work with me or not, that they put speakers in different buckets and they decide, nope, these do, these don't. How do you agree with that approach? And if you don't, Charlie, what would you share as your experience on why people should have access to presentation codes across the board, regardless of what they're speaking on or what type of speaker they are?
Um, I have a different point of view. I think we actually deserve it to our audiences to create the best, most compelling content. And that means speakers who are relevant and resonant with the audiences. For example, and by the way, they could be even internal events too.
Oh, true.
If you're trying to motivate a sales organization at sales kickoff, the last thing you want to do is to
It's
hear
true.
at the end of the day somebody from legal talking about the new terms of services. Or, I mean, it's like you end up, it's really important to end up on a high note and to hit all the notes, make sure that everyone who is on stage has something to say, because at the end of the day, I want every seller leaving that room motivated and excited to sell their products and get in front of customers, like literally the next day. And so that's why I don't think anybody you have on stage is just, out of deference to the audience and out of respect to them. You want them to be the best that they can be. So I've never thought of it that way. The I mentioned, your CEOs and your people who may not present every day, but you're absolutely right. The biggest benefit is to our customers. I mean, you and I worked with execs from Boeing and Malcolm Gladwell and Martha Stewart, but even customers from across Vimeo's ecosystem, and they're people too, and they want to look as great as possible because they want to do a good job, but also they want to use that video asset for their own benefit too, where they're building a personal brand. And so it's also a benefit to them is say, hey, would you like to come to speak at Reframe? By the way, we have, we're going to make you look great. Here's your setup. We have a presentation coach. And it's a magnet. It's like, oh my, wow, this is really, really great. So they see it as a benefit too.
I had somebody one time say to me, they're like, I wish I would have met you 40 years ago or a presentation strategist 40 years ago, because I never thought about, to your point, Charlie, how can we make it something that's very boring? Because sometimes this tech stuff in the tech conferences is not always the most colorful or flashy. Vimeo is a little bit different because they're video creators and a lot of fun, flashy stuff. But in some of the other tech conferences we've worked at, not so much. But we can still make that compelling. But I want to shift gears a second because you just brought up internal conferences or internal presentations, like your sales kickoff, but it could be your town halls. It honestly could be you just have your team together and you're having to motivate, or you're having to deliver some harsh news, or whatever the case may be. But if you think back over your career, Charlie, or you're speaking to somebody who's coming up in their career, maybe they're listening to this podcast right now, what would you share with them in terms of how they should think about their presentation quality as just a leader in their organization?
Yeah, so I'll share something with you. When we first met, I'd never worked with a presentation coach like you. So when we were getting in
Okay.
that Escalade, I was like, oh wow, okay, but this is cool. I've never seen this. Um,
Didn't know the industry existed.
yes, I sounds good. I'm in a much bigger company now. What I'll say is, working with a presentation coach and sweating the details around presentation quality, it's like taking your first Uber or working with AI for the
Mm.
first time. And like, so when you took an when I oh, maybe I'm dating myself again, but that first Uber, you're like, wait a minute, I just on my phone, I don't have to carry
Right.
cash, like I don't have to wait in line. Like if you ever waited in line for a taxi in
I'm
Vegas.
literally calling a stranger to pick me up. Mom and dad told me not to do this.
Yeah, and by the way, yeah, my daughters are using Uber, so I can keep track of them. I mean, this is like I'll never take a taxi again. And the same
Right.
thing is true with if you do digital marketing. Like when you build custom GPTs for your personas and your messaging, whatever, you're like, I don't need to have a whole army of people doing this. And you're like, light bulbs go off. And I think that's what it's like if you've never worked with someone like yourself. It's like, oh no, for all the reasons we talked about before, your stakeholders feel better. By the way, they present better. I mean, I know that sounds
Mhm.
obvious, but it's like, so they're not in their head, they have a better experience, which, is a benefit for everyone putting on the event and sweating the details. And so, the only thing I can say is like, it's like you'll always have one, if you've ever experienced it before.
Yeah, very, very cool. So from a brand strategy, so let's just talk brand period. So where do you think brands and presentations come together to make a difference for companies that are just beloved by their organizations versus maybe companies that don't do it as well and don't have raving customers, like to use Vimeo as an example? How do you see those merge together, kind of in a bigger picture? We've talked a lot about conferences and internal stuff, but just as a big picture strategy across an organization, how do you see those two fit together?
Well, listen, I think content, human content is so important these days. When you can write it, like you can literally have an AI write a script and then generate. Sorry, this new iOS feature showing someone's leaving a voicemail on my screen. I've never seen this before, and it's really
Oh, wow. Okay, speaking of AI and what pops up.
yeah, no shit. Let me start at the top.
That's okay.
Um, It's a great question. In today's world, there's so much of our content that can be, AI generated. And I think that's what separates from a brand perspective, great content from, slop. And I don't mean to,
Mm.
be pejorative about it, but I think great presentations accelerate and elevate a brand when they're authentic. And the authenticity comes from great presentations that, again, are relevant and resonant and well delivered at the right time. And I don't think you can invent that with AI. Maybe you can do things at scale that you can't do when you're live or when you have a human recording. But
Hmm.
I think that's what separates great marketing and also authentic brand storytelling.
Yeah, and I love how you said that because I can tell you right now, as soon as I get the script, I'm like, hey, I wrote this for you. I'm to the point now that I can so tell because it's not that it's in they could potentially deliver it as is, but it's missing that human element. It's almost like it's missing a soul, for lack of a better terminology. And then helping people find that authenticity within themselves to bring that out, which huge represents the brand, the organization, and even their own personal brand as well. So, as we round out our conversation, Charlie, I've really appreciated this. But speaking of brand and personal brand, I'm just curious, what's Charlie's next chapter? Where do you
You
think you're headed?
know, um, well, hopefully, to continue to work with the types of companies and the people that I want to work with. I know that sounds obvious, but I'm super lucky to be able to do that. I advise startup companies to help take my experiences here and benefit younger up and coming smaller teams. I just love doing that. It also helps me stay sharp. You know, if you're a
Mhm.
public company CMO managing a fairly large team, it's actually harder to get them to adopt AI and reimagining things
Right.
in a whole new way, and do some out of the box thinking versus working with smaller teams. And so I'll be staying busy.
You'll be staying busy, a whole bunch of different combination stuff. Well, thank you so much. And if the listeners want to reach out and get a hold of you, Charlie, how would they do that?
I'm Charlie at ungashik.com.
Okay, and I'm pretty sure Gabby will probably put that on the screen too, so it'll
Yeah,
be easy to see, and it'll be
right
yeah,
there.
exactly. That's what I'm going to
Click
say
below.
too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, point down below. So Charlie, thank you again so much. I've really appreciated this conversation about brand and presentations.
Me too, Patty. Thanks for having me.